awesome trip to Bilbao and I want to show you the sights. We went from Bristol Airport, £15 tickets each way. But that's not exactly great, is it? That's rather typical. There's the Bristol Channel in the distance. And we've come over the Bay of Biscay and we can probably see Santander just about in the distance there. It's only about an hour and a half by bus from Bilbao. When you get to Bilbao, go and get a Barik card. This card gives you discounted travel on all public transport in the Bilbao area, and there is lots of transport. If you're a train enthusiast, you'll have trains. There's the metro, overground trains, and you've also got things like the tram in the old part of the town. And if you want something a little bit more adventurous, you'll certainly get that. Look at this hanging bridge, which people go to commute to work to every day. Wouldn't that be impressive? There's also lots of funiculars. I think we counted about 3 or 4 funiculars. At least we went on those. And look at this amazing bee funicular in the neighbourhood where we stayed. So, top 5 of this exciting part of Spain. Number 5 is Plentzia. This takes about 40 minutes to get to by train from the centre of Bilbao. It's kind of a fishing villagey type of place. There's not actually a lot there. It's just a case of rambling around the old streets. You've got these lovely historic buildings, and then there is quite a nice beach here. I think this was actually a naturist beach in part because we did see a few nudies going around, but yeah, it's very scenic and it was warm enough to sit out. This was the middle of October. As you can see, people are not wearing a lot on this beach. So yeah, nice area, but not particularly a lot to see and do, so I'm not sure if it's particularly worth going all the way out to sea. Next up, number 4, Algorta Sopelana. You can walk all the way from Algorta Station. As you can see here, we had quite a bad day. This was our first day and there was a really high wind and some rain blowing in from the sea. So it wasn't the best of days. It's one of the key differences of visiting northern Spain as opposed to the south. So yeah, we were a bit out of the main season. Restaurants and cafes were closed. There wasn't maybe such vibe as there would be in the peak months. But yeah, a lovely place to walk round. You've got this historic windmill that's on the cliff top here. Maybe you could imagine this functioning in many years past. And you can walk for about 2 hours from the station around the cliff to Sopelana Beach again. It's like a good half day or a whole day trip out. And we found this sports centre, and here they're playing this fascinating racket sport which is unique to the Basque region. So yeah, try and work this out. There are a lot of unique things that you can find here. The Basque area is known for not really having ever been invaded by outsiders because it's so mountainous. Okay, number 3, Bilbao city centre. This is going to be a place where just about everyone goes to on their trip to Bilbao. This is the main central part with the Guggenheim Museum, which I believe was reaching its 27th anniversary when we were there. We didn't go inside. It's about €10 per person, and I think we just didn't have enough time, and I think we just weren't in the mood to go and see what was inside. So I'm unsure whether it's worth going in, but certainly it's an impressive building outside. And this is the back of the market area. There's a great market inside, which we'll see in a minute. But these are well-maintained buildings on Bilbao's riverfront, which makes for a nice photo opportunity. And then inside the market, you've got lots of pinchos. Pinchos are the Basques' version of tapas, and Next is the Arxando Funicular. So this is the main or the most popular funicular in town. It's got a lot of tourists going uphill, so it's basically a lookout point where you can see or have a good view of Bilbao centre from the top. So there's the Guggenheim Museum and the river. You can see it's quite mountainous and hilly behind, and in the distance is one of the hills that we went up to that you'll see in another point. I thought this was okay. It's not the best funicular. The lookout area is quite small, but I imagine this looks a lot nicer at night. Strangely, the restaurants around the lookout have all closed down. It's in rather sort of a decaying state, which is a surprise considering the popularity of this place. So yeah, the funicular was packed. That was probably the busiest point that we experienced on our trip. Everywhere else, the crowds weren't so intense, but yeah, you had to sort of squeeze in to get the funicular back down. So back in town, you can walk along the river. The buildings are all very well to do along the riverfront. There's some graffiti artwork here, which is absolutely huge. You can then walk past the other side of the Bilbao Museum and that iconic bridge again. Weather was quite good on this day, and you can get some views, and you can even sail. There are some trips that you can go on the river. We didn't check those out at all. So yeah, some lovely buildings in town. This is the Abando Station, as I understand it. Really impressive architecture. I was really surprised. And this is inside the station, and they've got this massive glass window with lots of colourful, stylish buildings, and you've got these balconies attached to the front, which is typical style. So this is also downtown at the end of the shopping streets. You've got this nice fountain here. And this is the neighbourhood where we stayed. These are typical apartment blocks. It's an extremely hilly place, so be warned, if you've got mobility issues, this is not going to be the place for you, sadly. And then we discovered this really cute, tiny funicular that takes you up between the heights, the different levels of this neighbourhood, because you've got like grocery stores right on the top of the hills, and obviously you can't just carry heavy bags up and down steps all day. So yeah, really handy. It's really amazing how the city has catered to the residents in individual areas and have tried to make the transport and mobility as best as possible despite the hills. So yeah, I had fun going up and down on this. This was a free one, so I think I went up and down about 3 or 4 times, and then I also came back the next day on it. So we took the path as high as we could go in our neighbourhood, which was pretty high. And this is actually part of the Santiago Camino route.
Right.
I maybe have a small claim that I walked about 20 metres of the Camino. But yeah, this was a Camino path coming through this really nice park with some really nice views. And it was just really splendid to just sit or stand and watch the views. The views up here were much better. I wouldn't say much better, but I preferred them over the views that you got at the top of the Arxando Funicular in the city centre. It's a lot greener and relaxing here. There's also a lot of nice parks and other green areas around the city. This was one park near our accommodation. It's not too far from the city centre. Stations up the river, you can go to an area called Las Arenas, and here is the Vizcaya Bridge, which is the hanging the moving vehicle is suspended from the bridge and goes back and forth. You can use your Vizcaya card, the Biz card, on here as well. But yeah, it's a really sort of fascinating piece of transport that I don't think you could find anywhere else. Not that I'm aware. So yeah, we hung out on the river a bit, walked along here, and it takes you along to this quite well-to-do area, which I think is called the Getcho, perhaps. Basically, there's a bay here, lots of expensive yachts and lots of fancy housing. The housing has some real special designs. I think they were specially commissioned, and a lot of them were originally owned by explorers and business people connected to the colonial era, when Spain, of course, had lots of colonial interests, especially in South America. So a lot of rich merchants ended up building their villas such as these in this particular area. So it's a really nice stroll around, or even a jog around if you're into jogging, and you could easily while away 1 or 2 hours here, and it's accessible on the subway line. Okay, my next and number one favourite of this trip was Larreineta, and this is an old mining area, so it's a quarry area that's been converted into this sort of sculpture art park. So you can reach it by train. I think we had to go to an area called La Trapaga, perhaps. Maybe you can find it on the map. But yeah, you follow the river up north on the sort of left side of Bilbao until you get to a valley, which in itself is quite pleasant, although you've got quite a walk after you get off the train to reach the final destination. Barik card. I mean, it was just super cheap to travel. I think the government was even giving a 50% discount on public transport fares, in addition to already inexpensive fares. Okay, so another funicular. Again, just no crowds at all. So I really like this one. You could have the whole place to yourself. There's a little model of the funicular there at the station. And then you've got these original carriages, which are basically on a kind of platform. So they remain flat while you're going up at about a 45-degree angle. So yes, really steep. And there's an up and a down carriage moving at the same time. And they run sort of every 30 minutes or so, and again, super cheap with the Barik card. So here we go, we're taking off on our funicular ride. This was really, really fun. I could have done a few of these trips up and down, but imagine being the driver. What a lucky job to have. So we're going up quite a way. It lasts for something like 15 minutes perhaps going up, so it's a decent ride. Again, I preferred it to the Arxando Funicular, much more interesting, and you've got these really scenic views into the more sort of rural side of Bilbao. So here's the crossing where the two vehicles cross tracks. And you can see how the carriage there was mounted so that it remains horizontal despite the incline. And there's the cliffs. Those are the cliffs that we were at in Algorta the other day. Luckily the weather here is much better today. So yeah, it's a kind of disused mining area. They used to send a lot of people up here every day, hence why they invested in this funicular, this special funicular. But now it's pretty much an abandoned area. Many of the houses are either empty or they're in a bit of a sort of rugged state, as you can see here. But yeah, really nice area. Came across these Highland cows on the path, and you basically just come out the station, walk down the road, and you're into these old quarries, which are now featuring various sculptures. And it's just really nice for a walk around that's relaxing. You could even bring a picnic here. Luckily we didn't, because as you'll see in a moment, there was this dog that lost its owner, and annoyingly, it was really annoying, attached itself onto us. So luckily we hadn't started eating at that point. Otherwise I think the dog would have expected wanting to be fed as well. So there's the dog that just wouldn't leave our side. And then this is the actual village area. It's all pretty much closed, maybe because it was late afternoon, maybe because it was off season. But again, yeah, maybe at another time it could be quite a vibrant area. You can see all the murals here celebrating or paying tribute to all the miners that clearly had very hard jobs. Half a day or a day here. Okay, so going on to my number one favourite place. Well, there were actually three places. I've listed Mundaka and Bermeo here. Now, you have to take the train out from Bilbao. So, again, we started from the city centre quite early in the morning. It was a cold start. We went through Guernica, which I'll comment on when we come back. So yeah, it's quite nice to see the area outside of Bilbao, and it really struck me as to how smart many of the houses were. And as we went into some of these towns, I even felt it could even be comparable to somewhere like Switzerland. It just felt really smart and upmarket and very well to do. So again, that just took me by complete surprise. I thought Bilbao was going to be a bit more run down and not as affluent as some of the areas of Spain, but it's really quite the contrast. A while to get here, so maybe about an hour and a half. The train isn't particularly fast. We stopped first at Bermeo, which was the end station. This is a really nice town. There's lots of really beautiful historic architecture that's well maintained in the town centre. Definitely worth walking around the town. Look at that really stunning wooden stone building right in front there. Just think how many hundreds of years that's been standing. Yeah, it's got some old walls, and then you reach eventually the coast. There's a really lovely coastal path that you can take that's quite short and manageable, although again it's not somewhere that you could go if you have real mobility issues such as using a wheelchair. Steps down to the beach. I imagine some people try to swim or bathe in here in the summer. I mean, it's potentially warm enough in October, just maybe you don't get locals trying to go in the water at that time of the year, and you could see all these geological rock formations or striations of the different eras. Such colourful buildings here. I recall seeing some of the Airbnb properties on this sort of harbour front area, so you could actually stay in one of these properties and have the view of the boats each morning. That would be really nice. So again, luckily on this day we had the best weather out of the week. You can even catch some traditional fishing activity along the boat, and there's a trip here that takes you to, is it Gazalugache? Sorry if I butchered that name, but it's a site from Game of Thrones, but it only runs in the summer months, so you've got to time it well. Then we went down to Mundaka, which is the next stop. I think this may also have a Game of Thrones element to it. So there's this beautiful church here, which is perfect for taking photos against the blue sea, the blue Bay of Biscay waters. So you've got the Saint Catalina Basilica and a spot again where you could bring your lunch, and it's kind of the perfect atmosphere, which is why I would rate this town maybe the best out of the three that we're seeing on this final day. Absolutely stunning, and again, no crowds. You're not overrun with tourists. Again, these fantastic luxurious properties sitting on the cliff tops on the edge of the sea. Into Mundaka town, trying to find somewhere to eat. There was this lovely bay here where people actually were swimming, so people can swim at this time of the year. And again, some more beautiful local style buildings descending into the harbour. Again, I really think the quality of this is just on a par with going to Switzerland. So I cannot rate this place highly enough. It's just beautiful. And then we went on to Itsabegi. So Itsabegi is the next stop down, and you've got this lovely little inlet beach on the river here. And there's just no one here. It's perfect weather. It was actually too hot to be in the sun. I think it went up to something like 26 degrees on this day, which is a little bit hot for me. But sitting in the shade here was absolutely perfect. You can just watch the river ebb and flow and look at those beautiful properties in the hillsides on the opposite bank. So there is this massive kind of holiday complex here. So at some point in the summer, I imagine there's lots of locals coming to stay here. We didn't stop at the resorts, unfortunately, but we got the train back into Bilbao, and there's Itsabegi going out. Going back into Bilbao, we passed these wetlands which you can walk along or walk through. I think that's also on the Camino Santiago route, that's here. And then the other stop that I really wanted to make was Guernica. So Guernica was made famous in the Picasso painting of the same place, exactly the same place, reflecting the all-out bombing of Guernica in the Spanish Civil War. It seems like, therefore, it's been rebuilt in a not particularly attractive style, as you can see here around the station. Okay, sadly, it's time to go home. This is us back at Bilbao Airport. It's only 15 minutes by bus from the city centre, so it's just super convenient to get to and from the airport here. Okay, sadly, that's the end of our trip, and I'll be coming back with a few notes at the end of this video. That's the sadness of coming home. So this is where we went. And if we had more time, we would have gone to Donostia, which is San Sebastian, Santoña, that's got anchovy factories. There's a waterfall, I think it's called the Salto de Nervión. There's Lecatio, which is another coastal town. But yeah, as you can see here, in terms of accommodation, that was the problem. It turned out it's really expensive to stay in Bilbao. It's very difficult to find something below £1,000 for a whole week. I nearly cancelled the whole holiday. So this is the costs that we had for the whole trip. Transport is really cheap, but I suggest that if you're relying on public transport, then you need to stay near the centre of Bilbao. Otherwise, it's just going to take too long getting in and out of Bilbao to go to other places in the area. So that's the only problem with the public transport. But yeah, if you have your own car, that would be super convenient. Although I did remember reading a lot of accommodation reviews that mention that parking can be very problematic. So you might have to plan ahead if you're going to drive around by yourself. But yeah, I'll leave you with this final clip of the moving bridge again. And overall, I'd just say that Bilbao is just so underrated. It's so fantastic. It exceeded all expectations. I think it's a definite 10 out of 10. And if you don't want any crowds, certainly October seemed to be a great month to go, with the caveat that a few storms can blow in from time to time. Okay, if you like this video, click like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye, folks.